everyone and welcome to my channel, and today we are going to learn about clauses and their types. Now, first of all, let us know what is a clause and what's the difference between a phrase and a clause. So clause is a group of words that contain a subject and a verb. It may or may not convey a complete meaning. And what is a phrase? Now, phrase is a group of words that convey some sense but not complete sense because it does not have a subject or a verb. It can have an adverb or adjective or a noun. Now, let us see the different kinds of clauses. So, mainly there are two kinds of clauses: independent or main clause and subordinate or dependent clause. So, first of all, let us see what is an independent clause. So, an independent clause contains three things: a subject, a finite verb, and a complete thought. That is, it can stand on its own. For example, I like ghazals. He bought a beautiful dress. So here you will see that there is a subject and also a verb. Now, second kind of clause is coordinate clause. When independent clauses are joined by a coordinate conjunction, they are called coordinate clauses. Like, my car has a puncture, so I reached office late. So you will see that my car has a puncture is an independent clause, and the second part, that is I reached office late, is also an independent clause, and they are combined with a conjunction so, that is coordinate conjunctions. Same way, second example, he went to see her but she wasn't there. Now let's come to subordinate clause, or they are also called as dependent clause. So a subordinate clause has a finite verb with the subject but does not convey complete sense on its own. It can never be a sentence in itself and makes sense only when it is subordinated to an appropriate principal clause. So it cannot stand alone. It needs a principal or a main clause to make complete sense. For example, I like ghazals which are sung by Jagjit Singh. So here, I like ghazals is an independent clause, and which are sung by Jagjit Singh is a subordinate clause. Now, subordinate clauses begin with subordinate conjunctions, and they are after, unless, as, since, because, although, even though, before, while, wherever, whereas, if, until, unless, and so on. Now, the dependent clause or a subordinate clause can go first in the sentence, followed by the independent clause. For example, while I waited at the railway station, I realized that the train was late. So here we have started this with the subordinate clause, while I waited at the railway station, and I realized that the train was late is the main clause. Same way, unless you work harder, you will fail. Now, based upon their function, subordinate clauses are again divided into three types: noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. Now, let's see some examples. Many people do not understand what Shakespeare wrote. Now here, the highlighted portion, that is which is in the red color, who wrote under the name Shakespeare, is clearly a subordinate clause, isn't it? Now, same way, see the second one. Most people do not understand Shakespeare's works, even after they are taught to appreciate them. So, these all the clauses in red are subordinate clause. Now we will find which one is a noun clause or adverb or adjective clause. Let's see first noun clause. So a noun clause is a subordinate clause in a sentence which functions as a noun in the sentence. Now we know that a noun can be the subject of a verb, subject complement, or the direct object of a verb, or the object of a preposition. Let's see one example. What the teacher said was very inspiring. So here, see the red colored part. What the English teacher said was very inspiring. So this is noun clause because it is describing that what was inspiring. What was inspiring? What the English teacher said. So it is a noun clause. Now, let's see some more examples. He expected that he would pass. Now here also, see, he expected. Now what he expected? He expected that he would pass. So this is object part, and that is a noun clause. You should carefully listen to what the teacher says. Same way, see more examples. She wondered why nobody had turned up. They wanted to know if we had any objection. So let's summarize that noun clause acts like a noun. It may be the subject of a verb or the object or complement of a verb. It can be object of a preposition or an infinitive or a participle. It may be introduced by that or question words like why, what, how, etc. And also it can be introduced by if or whether. So now I think you will be able to identify the noun clause. Whenever you will find that it acts as noun or subject of a verb or object, or it can be introduced by the question words like why, what, how, or that, or if or whether. Now next come to adverb clause. Now an adverb clause usually modifies a verb. It tells something about the action mentioned in another clause. It may tell the time, place, or manner of the action. It may tell the cause, purpose, or effect of the action. It may compare or contrast this action with any other action. Accordingly, we get an adverb clause of time, place, manner, cause, purpose, effect, condition, comparison, or contrast. So there are various kinds of adverb clauses. Now see some examples of adverb clauses. When he returned home, Sunil found the house burgled. So here there is adverb clause of time. When he returned home, this is the time. When Sunil found the house burgled. So it is describing the time when it was burgled. Second example, wherever we looked, there was confusion. So here this clause shows the place. He lost the match since he was not fit. Here it is giving a reason why he lost the match. Since he was not fit. So this is adverb clause of reason. Then he acts as though he has no conscience. So this shows the manner. Humans eat so that they may live. So here it is showing the purpose. So it is adverb clause of purpose. Then if you are right, then I am wrong. So this is showing the condition. So it is the adverb clause of condition. It is generally begin with if. Now let's see about punctuation. When an adverb clause appears before the main clause, a comma is used to separate the two clauses. As soon as he arrives, we will have some lunch. So here the main clause is later and subordinate clause is used in the beginning. So there we will put a comma after the subordinate clause. There is no need for a comma when the adverb clause appears after the main clause. So when the subordinate clause is after the main clause, there is no need to put comma. Like in second example, he gave me a call when he arrived in town. Now, whereas and while, these two conjunctions show clauses in different opposition to each other. So when we join when we use these conjunctions in an adverb clause, a comma is used to separate the clauses, even when the subordinate clause appears after the main clause. Generally, we don't use comma when the subordinate clause is after the main clause. But when there is while, when there is use of while or whereas, we need to put a comma. Barry is slim while I am overweight. Same way, second, I have very little time to do my homework, whereas you have lots of time to do yours. So here also we put comma because they are showing the contrast, opposition. So let's summarize. An adverb clause modifies a verb phrase, an adjective or another adverb. And adverb clause starts with a subordinate conjunction like after, although, because, if, until, when, since, than and while. Now let's come to adjective clauses. Now an adjective clause, which is also called as relative clause, it's a subordinate clause which performs the function of an adjective to a noun in a sentence. Like Geeta gave Ashok a belt which was made of leather. Now here which was made of leather is an adjective clause which is describing the belt which Geeta gave Ashok. So here the belt, noun belt, will come just before the clause. The boy who is wearing a blue shirt is my brother. So here the noun which this clause is describing is boy. So boy is the noun which is being described here by the clause. Who is wearing a blue shirt? The boy is my brother is the main clause, and who is wearing a blue shirt is the subordinate clause, or you can say adjective clause. So we see that a subordinate clause or adjective clause, it can come in between the main clause also. So please note, the noun being described by the adjective clause should always occur just before the clause. An adjective clause is usually introduced by the words who, whose, whom, which, that, which are also called as relative pronouns. These are relative pronouns. That is why adjective clauses are also called as relative clauses. So who is used for living beings and which for non-living things and animals. That can be used for both. And very occasionally an adjective clause may also be introduced by as, when, where, etc. Now let's see more examples. These are the people whom we met during our vacation. So you will see here the relative pronoun is used to begin the adjective clause. Now that is the dog whose leg is broken. Water scarcity is a problem that we will face. I purchased all the medicines which the doctor had prescribed. Now let's summarize. So an adjective clause describes a noun or a pronoun. It is introduced by who, whose, whom, which and that, sometimes by as, when, where, etc. Then an adjective clause should be placed as close as possible to the noun it describes. The introducing word may sometimes be omitted. Now let's see how these relative pronouns can be omitted. So when the relative pronoun is the object of the adjective clause, then relative pronoun may be omitted when it is object of the adjective clause. Like, these are the people whom he helped. We can ignore this whom and we can write, these are the people who we helped. Now it's practice time. So do these exercises. You have to mark these clauses as main clause, subordinate or coordinate clause. So main clause with MC, subordinate with SC and coordinate with CC. So I hope you have understood the different types of clauses, and please do this exercise. You will enjoy, and let me know how many answers were correct. Answer key is already given at the end of this video, so please go through it and don't forget to like, share and comment. Thank you so much.